We'll try to find out a little bit about the nutrition. Excuse me as I have a snack. One of the big things that you are taking into consideration is your health. You know, when people come in and they're coming in for the knowledge, ultimately you're taking that step to another level of trying to learn how to take care of yourself and how to do things that will keep you healthier. And our goal obviously here is to help teach you how to take care of yourself and make sure that you make proper choices in the things that you do and understand the differences between everything that's going on. You know, a lot of the people who came in for pain. Who came in for pain? Okay. Does anybody remember what the first chiropractic adjustment helped to solve? Carrie's pointing to his ears. Deafness. Okay. Okay. It's when chiropractic was founded, it was not founded on the ability to take someone's pains away. It was founded on the ability to help somebody function at a different level. Okay. So educating yourself helps you to bring you to another level of understanding of where things are going. And having said that, tonight we will spend 30 minutes of time with a lot of information going through here. Just be open-minded. You might have heard some of the stuff, you might know some of the stuff, you might not know some of the stuff, but understand this is a basic understanding of what gluten is and the myths and facts about it. You could speak about gluten for how long? Forever, right? Okay, you really can, and it's the new buzzword, you know? It's the new buzzword, you know, like in the 80s, I think it was fats. In the 90s, it was carbohydrates. In the, you know, so like there's always something, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that, but ultimately we have to look from dietary habits, what we're congruently, genetically made to eat. Okay, and ultimately, if you look at what we're genetically made to eat, it's more like the paleo diet. I'm not saying to eat the paleo diet, and I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying that those are the foods that we ate growing, and our genetics has not changed but 0.2% in the last 40,000 years. So keep that in your mind when we're talking about that stuff, because gluten is more of a newer phenomenon. Okay, it's not something that's been around, and over the past 100 years or so, our civilization as humans, we've become a very sick species. Okay, more so in just 4 generations than many other species that are out there. So you have to be aware of that. Having said that, we're going to start with the workshop tonight, which is about gluten. Excuse me. So, if you take a look at gluten, we always look at what it is first. Okay, whenever I start my workshops, I always try to explain what it is that we're talking about and what it is that what's going on and what the definitions of something is. Why is that? Because there's always something that people don't know about it, or maybe learn something. Maybe they do know about it, maybe they don't, but it's definitely something that we have to look at. So gluten comes from the word Latin. Gluten comes from Latin, meaning gluten, which means glue. Okay, it basically is something that binds something else together. It's a protein composite found in wheat and related grains, including barley and rye. Gluten gives elasticity to dough, helping it rise, and keeps it in shape, and often gives the final product a chewy texture. Gluten is used in cosmetics, hair products, and other dermatological preparations. So who knew that? Okay, so some of you knew that already. Okay, so you know there are people that are like, oh, I don't eat gluten, but they have it in everything else they eat, you know, or everything else they use. Okay, because it shows up in many different areas, and that's one of the things. Oh, I have a gluten sensitivity, or I can't take gluten, and then they're using gluten in other forms that they don't even know it comes in. You know, and these products are there. You know, in cosmetics, hair products, it's there. Why is it there? Again, it's a binder. They throw it in there, and it's something that they use that's important for them to bind things. Why would you use it in dough?
Hold the bread together.
Hold the bread together, yeah. It helps to hold the bread together or make it fluffier or not fluffier, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So gluten is a composite of two, gliadin and glutenin, which is conjoined with starch in the endosperm of various grass-related grains. So the endosperm is the actual covering on the outside. It's not the actual seed itself. but it's within that. So a lot of it is on the outside, the covering of whatever it is that you're looking at in grain. If you've ever seen wheat, okay, it actually grows and it has seeds on top. It has, the little seeds. It's actually in the covering of that you have this stuff. The prolamine and glutenin from wheat, gliadin, which is the gliadin, which is alcohol soluble, and gluten, which is only soluble in dilute acids or alkalis. And this is important because gluten is in dilute acids or alkalis, it's only soluble. Why is that important? What's either acidic or alkaline in our body? In the stomach, right? And then the body, so that it has an effect on the alkalinity or the acidity of our body. So you have to understand when that comes about. 80%, there's 80% of the protein contained in what they call wheat fruit, okay? And everybody understands what a fruit is, right? Yeah, there's something with a seed in it. It's not just, like an apple. Like a tomato is considered, it's a vegetable, but most people don't know it's considered actually clinically a fruit because there's seeds inside of it. So that's what they're talking about. A lot of this stuff is insoluble in water. They can be purified by wash away the associated starch. Worldwide, gluten is a source of protein both in foods prepared directly from sources containing it and as an additive to foods otherwise low in protein. So, did you know that? They add gluten to increase the protein content of something. Okay, so there's protein in gluten. So it's not necessarily always bad. Okay, it's just the stuff that we have now is much different than what we had many, many years ago. The fruit of most flowering plants have endosperms which store protein to nourish the embryonic plants during germination. So basically, this is just telling you that it helps it to reproduce, okay, is what we're looking at. True gluten with gliadin and gluten is limited to certain members of grass family. The stored proteins of maize and rice are sometimes called glutens, but their proteins differ from true gluten. So this is an important point. What is maize? Corn, okay? And rice. So the thing is, the actual chemical product of this is different, okay, than the wheat or the other where the gluten actually comes from. So the stored proteins in this are they are inadvertently called glutens and lumped into one thing, but they're not the same. So there's an important understanding when someone says they have a gluten insensitivity or a gluten problem or a wheat problem. There's differences. You really have to look at what it is that you're eating and really break it down and say, okay, what is it that's really causing my insensitivities? Is it that, or you're drinking too much coffee like I do? Okay, and then your belly is not able to handle or process through the intestinal wall. Extraction. Gluten is extracted from flour by kneading the flour, agglomerating the gluten into an elastic network of dough, and then washing out the starch. That's how you get the gluten. Okay, so you could actually use, has anybody ever done something like this, rinsed out the starch from dough and actually used it as a thickening agent in something when they're cooking? Yeah, people do, and a lot of the times they do use that stuff for something like that. Starch granules disperse in cold, low water temperature, and the dispersed starch will be sedimented and dried, so it comes to the bottom. If a saline solution is used instead, which is basically salt, instead of water, pure protein is obtained with certain harmless impurities going into the solution with the starch. Where starch is the prime product, cold water is the favored solvent because the impurities stay with the gluten. Why do they want the impurities in there? Any ideas?
Good bacteria.
Yeah, there's some of the impurities are bacteria that are in there. They can help yeast, will help to rise the bread. And so what ends up having this sort of like a fermentation process, so you get the little bubbles in the bread. So there's a lot of different things that can go on with that. So that's an important. Some of the uses of it, the development of gluten is particularly to enhance elasticity. So if you've ever seen someone throw a pizza, okay, and then have it land on them, no, I'm just kidding. But if you throw a pizza, the reason you can do that because the elasticity, the glutens that are in there are binding it together. So has anybody ever tried to make a gluten-free pizza? Like, okay, how easy is it? It's not. It's not, because there's no real elasticity to the dough, okay? There's no real elasticity to the dough. So it's an important thing to understand that The gluten is there for a reason, okay? It's there for a reason. It's a protein that helps bind things. Gluten's attainable elasticity is proportional to its content of glutenins with low molecular weights as this portion contains a preponderance of sulfur atoms responsible for the cross-linking in the network. So what ends up happening is the chemistry of it, the organic chemistry of it, basically what it ends up happening is it allows it to link in patterns, okay? And obviously I'm not drawing specific molecules. I mean, if I started doing that, I'd start doing things like this and attachments, and it just gets crazy. It's insane. But ultimately, what ends up happening is that sulfur atom is in there. So now you have sulfur in there, okay? What does sulfur smell like?
Rotten eggs.
Yeah, it smells nasty. Okay, so when something goes rotten with it, so this is why sometimes when you have this stuff, it doesn't smell that great, because it's bringing it out. More refining of the gluten leads to chewier products such as pizza and bagels. Okay, who likes that stuff? Right? Okay, and people, why do you think people get gluten sensitivities? Why do you think people have problems with things like pizza and bagels? Go ahead.
Eating too much of it?
Eating too much of it. Okay, because what happens is it's become such a preponderance and such a large part of our diets, okay, that some people just can't live without it. This afternoon, we were having lunch, we were having a meeting, a teleconference, and I do it with the team the third Tuesday of the month, and I ordered a salad with steak tips. It was a spinach salad, and then my wife didn't finish her fettuccine alfredo, so I finished it. And then there was rolls. I had a few rolls. It's like
Chips.
potato chips, right?
Oh.
Potato chips. Yeah, that's right. Well, the thing is that I was telling them, and they're looking at me like, "What?" Because I usually don't eat all that stuff all the time. But the thing is, because this weekend I'm doing a large race, I need to start putting salts and carbs and things into my diet, okay, that I don't usually eat a lot of. But the thing is, I have to load up on the stuff to make sure that when I'm running the race, that I have the energy to do that. And on the days of, you're also loading on proteins and things of that nature. So from a nutritional standpoint, it's necessary. I don't eat this stuff all the time, so my body isn't really sensitive to it. You do get a hypersensitivity if you eat something a lot. And if you crave something a lot, you could be allergic to it. Say again?
Well, the worst thing you can have
It's
is
a-
really crave.
Right, because when you're craving it, it usually means some sort of allergy or some sort of go ahead.
So I'm allergic to ice cream?
Chocolate.
It could be, well, if you're craving it all the time. But sugars, yes, you could crave sugars and you could be allergic to it. And sugar, and this is an important aspect. You're bringing up something that's really important to understand. Let me just finish this sentence here. While less refining of the actual dough leads to more tender baked goods such as pastry products. So that's the fluffiness. It gives it a fluffiness. So you were talking about chocolate, sugars. Okay, gluten sort of falls into that category. One of the things that people don't understand is that when you're eating sugars or eating gluten, specifically glutens actually stimulate a part of the brain that is actually, there are actually opiate receptors, okay? Does everybody know what an opiate is? Opiate, like opium, opiate is a painkiller. There's one that they gave me when I burned my foot. I can't think of it, starts with an M. I can't remember it right now. But it's one of the more, it's a stronger painkiller, and, huh?
Morphine?
Morphine, thank you. Sorry, I blanked right there for a second. But morphine is an opiate. But the thing is, when you take those things, and I'll give you an example. I had burned my foot. I had 2nd-degree burns on the bottom of my foot. And I was sitting there, and they put and they were debriding it. They were taking off all the dead skin. So it leaves bare skin, so they gave me an intravenous. And I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting, and all of a sudden I went, oh my God, what's going on? I was like, I freaked out. I was like, what is going on? I felt like this rush in my body. They put morphine in the drip and they didn't tell me. Okay, and I never take medication. Okay, so I was like, it really affected me. But After a few minutes, I felt great. I was like, "Ooh, I feel good." So the thing is, that's what the gluten does. It stimulates those opiate receptors, and you feel good about yourself. And what ends up happening is you crave more. Okay, yeah, she's like, more ice cream, and he's like, more ice cream, more chocolate. But the thing is, the sugar does the same thing. There's the satiation factors. And what happens is a lot of the companies that are out there, like Monsanto, which is the big one, is actually paid by the government and certain food industries to find out what satiates your brain. Not what fills your stomach, but what satiates your brain, which means when so when you eat, it feels good, but afterwards you feel like, okay, I'm ready to go to sleep, or or pass out. So it's important to understand this. Generally, bread flours are very high in gluten, hard wheats. Pastry flours have lower gluten content, so if you want to eat something that's bad for you, eat the pastries. They don't have as much gluten on your skin. They just have more sugar. Kneading promotes the formation of the gluten strands and cross links. And increased moisture content in the dough enhances gluten development. So if you've ever seen, I remember my grandmother used to make, homemade baklava, and she used to make something we call tatarash. They were like little dumplings. But she would roll out the dough, and when she would leave the dough to rise, it looked very moist. Has anybody ever seen that? Even like pizza dough, when they leave it, they cover it so it keeps the moisture in. So it helps with that. Shortening inhibits formation of cross-links and is used along with diminished water and less kneading when a tender and flaky product is. So if you want, I'm teaching you, if you like to bake or cook, this is the types of things that you have to do to change the formulation of it. But these are some of the things I use. So what else is gluten used in? Imitation meats. Yeah. But people eat this stuff. Why do you think they use wheat gluten? It's often used for the imitation meats like beef, chicken, duck, fish, and it's mixed with soy.
Hold it together.
Stuff together.
Because it holds it, and it holds it together, right. Okay, that's pretty gross. Okay, when cooked in broth, gluten absorbs some of the surrounding liquid, including the taste, and becomes firm to the bite. So again, they use it, like I was saying, they use it as a thickening agent.
Tofu?
Huh? Tofu is not, the tofu is different. And it depends on the type of tofu, but it's a soy protein. So you have to be very careful. Nowadays, you have to be very careful of soy proteins too, because the soy proteins are over-farmed now too. And if you're seeing soy protein isolates and stuff, like I'm starting to shift out some of the nutritionals that I use and switching over to different types of proteins, because that it can cause problems. But soy is a whole different other issue. But the thing is, they use gluten in some of the imitation meats. Okay, so these are the things that a lot of people don't know. Other uses: gluten is also often present in beer.
That's what I was going to ask.
Soy sauce, and can be used as a stabilizing agent in unexpected food products such as ice cream and ketchup.
What would it be listed as an ingredient? How would you know?
Now I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
I'm going to get to
And
that.
in the cosmetics, how do you?
I'm going to get to that. Foods of this kind of raise a problem because the hidden gluten constitutes a hazard for people with obviously celiac disease. Someone that has a true problem with gluten is diagnosed with something called celiac disease. Celiac disease is a sensitivity to gluten, and you have symptoms that are associated with it. Okay? There are different types of things that people say, oh, I can't eat gluten, I'm sensitive to gluten. No. Some people, like I have a gentleman who came in and we were talking, and he was always an athlete, big guy, he's a few years older than me, and he was saying that he had lost 50 pounds over the last 2 or 3 years. And he said, he was talking to his doctor, and he goes, what have you done? He goes, I just changed my diet, I don't eat any wheat. And the guy goes, oh, you want gluten-free? He goes, no, I didn't go gluten-free, I don't eat any wheat. There's a difference, okay? Because there's still gluten in other products, it's just that he's not eating wheat products. Okay, there's a difference between that. You have to understand that you can knock out wheat, but still be eating gluten in the things that you have, and still lose weight, because the wheat products, what ends up happening is there's a lot of carbohydrate load, and we eat too much of it. Oh my God, I blanked on you. Sorry, it's late. I'm forgetting things now. I don't understand what's going on. I haven't had enough coffee.
Need more gluten.
Yeah,
Cells are too low.
yeah. So adverse reactions. So these are some of the things that we talk about. In individuals with celiac disease, spelled celiac in American English, which is the way I did it because I pulled a lot of this stuff, and you can see I left this one here by accident. Consumption of gluten causes adverse health issues ranging from abdominal bloating, okay, which is usually the first sign of someone who has some sort of gluten insensitivity. You have abdominal pain, gas, diarrhea, and sometimes vomiting, but sometimes people will bloat. They'll get the stomach will bloat, and that's some of the things that's going on. Can lead to migraine headaches and joint pain. So we will be doing a whole workshop on inflammatory foods and trying to reduce inflammation in your joints, but gluten is one of those things that can inflame the joints. Because of the way it changes the acidity of your body, it can inflame the joints. So if you're sitting around and you're not moving and then you're eating this stuff, guess what? The perfect storm is in place. So you have to be careful. Celiac disease is an autoimmune disorder that affects the digestive process of the small intestine. See, so what does autoimmune mean? Does anybody know? The body is attacking itself. Why does it do that? Huh?
Signals from somewhere
It's getting
else
mixed.
or
There's something wrong, and it's becoming more and more because we are not allowing our bodies to learn immunity. Okay, what's happening is a lot of the times, the body learns immunity from the things we're exposed to. So what ends up happening if you're exposed to something at many levels, very, very much so, what happens is the body then has to continually raise its ability to fight off whatever the inflammation or whatever the things that are going on, and then it starts attacking itself. So you have to be aware of what's going on. In 2009, research showed that 0.5 to 1% of people in the US and UK are sensitive to gluten due to celiac disease. That doesn't sound like a lot, but think about 1% of 350 million people. How much is that? 350,000. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of people, you know, and that's just for celiac disease. That's actually diagnosed. Okay? Probably occurs with comparable frequency among all wheat-eating populations in the world. No cure, but it's manageable, hopefully with a gluten-free diet. Some other adverse reactions that we talk, non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Okay, so here you have gluten sensitivity that's not diagnosed as celiac. Okay, sometimes known as gluten intolerance is a condition thought to arise as a result of an immunological response to gluten that differs in nature to the immune response characteristic of celiac disease. How in the world do you tell the difference?
Isn't a biopsy the only way?
Sometimes biopsies, sometimes blood tests will show. On celiac disease, they'll look for certain blood markers. Okay, you know, the thing is, regardless, what's happening is it's a problem with the immunological function of your body. The immune system in your body is not functioning at proper levels. Okay, it doesn't know how to handle it. So let me ask you a question. What is one of the things that really has affected our ability to fight off disease? Antibiotics and antibacterial soap and antibacterial sprays and because you know what? People are scared to shake each other's hand. Oh my God, you have a cold. Dude, give it to me.
Yeah.
Okay, let me have the virus. Okay, because you know what? Now your body learns how to fight it. And later on, if your body doesn't learn how to fight these things and the infections, that can lead to a whole other myriad of things. I was just reading an article in Scientific American Mind how they were talking about how inflammation and infections can actually lead to depression. Okay, and you know, so the thing is, these are immunological responses. Gluten isn't the only bad guy here. It's your body learning how to handle this stuff. Okay, that's the same with we're not really made to drink milk. Okay, and I have this argument with people all the time. We're the only species on the planet that drinks milk. Okay, why do you think people are lactose intolerant? Well, they gain tolerance to lactose because they drink it throughout their lives. But later on, the body, you've drank so much of it that your body is like, I don't like this stuff anymore. So guess what it causes? Bloating and gas and you know all other kinds of stuff. So those are the things. There's no scientific consensus that this is actually a genuine pathological condition. Yeah, okay. This is the truth of it. They don't recognize it as a problem. Okay? It's scary. Some people are saying that it could be frequently symptoms could arise in individuals as a result of undiagnosed celiac disease, or due to reaction to other components of wheat, such as short-chain fermentable carbohydrates called FODMAP. Okay, so sometimes, because what happens when you ferment something?
Gives us gas.
It gives off gas, and blow. Yeah, duh. Okay, so the thing is, you really have to be aware of the food you're eating when you're eating them and what's in them. Is it the gluten or is it something else that's in them? Okay, so those are the big things. People can also experience adverse effects of wheat, such as wheat allergy. Okay, so now you have to determine: is it celiac, is it a gluten insensitivity, or is it a wheat allergy? And what do most people do? They clump it all together. There's differences. You have to understand this. And the thing is, it's not bad to cut wheat out of your diet, okay? But you might be getting gluten somewhere else. So that doesn't really mean you have a gluten insensitivity. It means you're allergic to the wheat. There's differences. It's going to explode. Sorry. Usually we find people when that happens, but that's okay. Yeah. And it goes into the little kitty for us to eat dinner and lunch notes. So these are important things. So is this stuff making sense to you guys? Okay, is this stuff that you didn't know the differences of, or is it stuff that some of you knew? Yeah, well, the foods you deal with, you know that she has Johnson's Golden Harvest? Yeah, I always tell you, see, look, I have a card here and everything. But if you want good foods from local places, you go to her place. It's down in Hooksett, right over the road. You can order online too now, right? Can you order online, or you can?
Not quite, yeah, all the products are on.
The products are online, so
but
you.
the form's not there.
Okay,
you
so
can-
at least you know what's going on
We're
there.
working on it.
So wheat allergy and celiac disease are totally different orders. So the immune response is often time limited, does not cause lasting harm to the body or tissues. That's one of the big differences between a wheat allergy and celiac. Celiac can cause harm to the tissues because of the constant problems. Okay. Symptoms. This is from the NFCA celiac disease symptom checklist. I can give you a copy of this if you want. Step 1, complete this celiac disease checklist. While the symptoms of celiac vary, suffering from any of these symptoms, especially over time, may indicate that you should ask your doctor for a celiac blood test, like we were talking about earlier. Check all that apply to you. So, who doesn't have fatigue, itchy skin, tingliness and numbing periodically, canker sores, joint pain, irritability of behavior changes, signature? I mean, everything is on there. Missed menstrual cycle, everything is on these lists. I pulled up these lists, I was like, really? So that means everything is on. But I said to him, but the thing is, you have to look further. You have to understand, you have to look further. Is it every time you eat, you're getting lethargic and you're getting gassy and bloated, then something's going on. Okay, you have to keep track of these things. But all of these things can happen. Depression, osteoporosis, Williams syndrome, dermatitis. There's a lot of immunological functions to it. I mean, any one of these can mean that you have gluten insensitivity or a gluten problem. Okay, but you have to understand that you have to look at everything. You can't just say, okay, I have a gluten problem. Let me get rid of the gluten, and everything's going to get better. That's impossible. That doesn't happen. You have to look at the whole picture. Okay, and that's the big thing. So someone was asking about labeling or how do you know? Well, international standards, the Codex of International Standards for Food Labeling has a standard relating to the label of products as gluten-free. It only applies to foods that would normally contain gluten, right? So it's only for the foods that would normally contain gluten. Okay, by law in Brazil, all food products must display labels clearly indicating whether or not they contain gluten. Okay. In Canada, label for all food products sold in Canada must clearly identify the presence of gluten if it is present at a level greater than 10 parts per million. United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, only cereals must be labeled. The labeling of other products is voluntary. In the United States, gluten might not be listed on labels because the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, has historically classified gluten as GRAS, generally recognized as safe. In August 2013, FDA issued a final rule effective August 2014 to define the term gluten-free for voluntary use in the labeling of foods. Presence of gluten in the food must be less than 20 parts per million. So in the United States, they don't have to put it on there. So how do you find out? You have to do research. This is the big myth. People are like, oh yeah, if it's a no, you got to look up the food and see how it's processed and find out from the company. Okay.
They don't have to list it as an ingredient at all.
They don't have to list it as an ingredient. So this is why people were exposed to it on a consistent thing. What's that? Troubleshooting 20. Oh, that's cool.
Those are all the ingredients, or a lot of them, that you should look for on your labels when you're.
Oh, when for possible gluten.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's like this is also a lot of this also applies to MSG, okay, or monosodium glutamates, to glutamates, which is another one. Artificial color, baking powder, caramel color, citric acid, coloring, dextrins, diglycerides, emulsifiers, enzymes, fat replacers, flavorings, food starch, glucose syrup, glycerides, maltodextrin, modified food starch, natural juices, stabilizers, starch, wheat starch. You know, I mean, it sounds like it's in everything, right? So you gotta be, so this is scary though. You really need to know what you're doing and you're eating when you do this. Gluten can be a very severe problem, especially in celiac disease, that people can have, but you have to look at, is it the wheat, is it the gluten, or is it just a sensitivity because you've eaten it so much? And those are the big things that we're looking at. These are the references. I put them really small so I can fit them all there. If you want a copy of this sheet, I'll give it to you. Okay, but it's all there. But having said that, you know, when we started this workshop, we talked about how we could talk about, you know, we could talk about this stuff for days and hours, but this is just a basic workshop in understanding. It's now up to you guys to take some of the information and say, okay, I have to make better choices. Okay, because you can go home and you can go home and say, okay, well, I'm just going to keep eating the way I do. Or you can say, okay, I'm going to change the way I eat and actually make the choices that are beneficial to my health. Those are the things. It's different because we trust in everything that's out there, and if it's boxed, it's pretty much, you pretty much got gluten in it. If it's processed, it's pretty much got gluten in it. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. It's in everything. It's in everything. But you have to figure out, do I start eating vegetables, fruits, raw form foods, meats? Those don't really have gluten in them. You can't put them in. If they're not processed, they don't have it in them. That's the way we should be eating. You know, those are the big things that we're looking at. And you know, nutrition is a huge factor in everything that we do. And it's the foundation of what I call the hierarchy. And most of you have heard this hierarchy. Okay, the hierarchy, it builds a foundation. Okay, but you can go without food for 3 or 4 days, 3 or 4 weeks, and still survive. Okay, you know, you can go without water for 3 or 4 days if you totally omit water from your diet. But you know, if your kidneys are going to start failing, you're going to die in 3 or 4 days if you don't replenish your fluid levels. And we were talking about oxygen earlier. Who was I talking to? I think it was Linda. I was like, oxygen is really important. Yeah, well, if you don't have it for a couple of minutes, you might be starting to gasp for air here. You know, and it boggles the mind when I go somewhere and I see people walking around with these oxygen tanks all the time. It's like, get up off your ass and do something different. Excuse my language. Okay, but I'm not being politically correct here. But you know what? Sometimes you need to change what you're doing. I went to, who's ever gone to Summer Freeze or Twist or Freezy Twist or whatever it is over on, okay, yeah. I went the other day, I rode there on my bicycles with my girls the other day. We had some ice cream. And I see these people getting out of the car. I swear to you, there must be 300-400 pounds. Okay, and the guy's pulling an oxygen tank behind. You know, and I'm saying to myself, you gotta be kidding me. You're sitting here eating the crappiest food, not only the ice cream, he was eating food and ice cream. Okay, and you expect it to be healthy, and then you wonder why in this country we have such a high level of expense for our quote healthcare. It drives me absolutely insane. I was like, you've got to do so. You've got to. We have to take responsibility, and it's up to you guys to take responsibility for yourself and let people know. Okay, because you know what, I struggle. I've had 3 knee surgeries, but you know what? I'm still want oxygen. I want to get out there and try to stay physically fit. I want to stay physically fit because if I don't have that oxygen, I'm not going to be healthy. Okay, but in 2 to 3 minutes, you can literally deplete and kill yourself. But the neurology drives all of that. And if you have a subluxation, and if you are diminishing the amount of communication between brain and body, you're not gonna be at 100%. I don't care who you are. Let people know. Let people know. This is important. This is a starting point. But people need to understand that you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It just doesn't work, okay? And that's what we're doing with our healthcare system, and that's what we do with everything else. Oh yeah, let's just give more medications. Let's just do more of this stuff. Let's just do more. And these people walking around. I was just flabbergasted. I was like, oh my God. And it's not that I'm not compassionate towards these people. I really do care about them, but I can't help them if they don't do something different. It's you guys doing something different for yourselves, not for me. It's for you, okay? That's what I ask you. Share it with people. Let them know. Have them come in for a workshop. Have them get checked. Have them call me, and if they have a question, I'll answer it for them on the phone, or leave me their name and number. I will answer stuff for them. They don't have to be a patient, but I have to schedule time, because obviously all our time is valuable. And having said that, thank you so much for coming tonight. If there are any questions, I'll be around for a few minutes, and we can go from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh,